Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Stefan.
I am so sick.
And that's why we didn't have an episode last week.
Because Michael was sick.
And that's the way it
But
goes.
I'm back, and I didn't let illness get in the way of doing the podcast. Except for last week, when I let illness get in the way of doing the podcast.
And we're animating in threes.
Jazz hands.
Dagwit.
We are a podcast where three guys analyze and discuss an animated
Two
film or
healthy
series.
people and one violently ill one.
Yes, that's the metric we're using this week, instead of whether or not we are animators or not. So this week, Stefan will be presenting.
Garden of Words by Makoto Shinkai.
Yep, but first, before we get into that, we'll be talking about tunes we've tuned into.
Do you think the day I was sick was a bad day to start sitting a foot from each other?
No, I think it's a great day.
Now let's list the tunes with tude.
So, Michael, what have you been watching animated-wise?
I mean, just because I never watch anything animated doesn't mean I don't consume media. I don't just sit at home.
Yeah, but we're not talking about any other media apart from animated
I'm
stuff.
watching the Preacher TV series.
That's not
about it.
animated.
Yeah, okay. The next one.
Wait, does it have special effects in it?
Not really.
Then we can't talk about it. Any Tom Cruise dreams?
Actually, Tom Cruise was in Preacher. He exploded.
Ah!
What did you watch this week, Ben?
Okay, so the past 2 weeks, I've actually watched so much. So there's been 3 episodes of the new Archer season, which I've been keeping up with.
This is the space one, right?
Yes. I think it's better. It starts off better than the last season did. Because last season, which was like an adventure on an island, it didn't start out that exciting. The start of this month, I started watching all the Star Wars stuff in order
Just all of it?
Yeah, all of it. So, all the canon stuff.
Okay.
So the films
preparation.
and the TV shows in preparation for the Rise of Skywalker, and I finally got up to the Clone Wars,
Which one?
the
series?
movie and the series.
Ah, isn't the movie terrible?
I used to like them when I was a kid.
Ah.
Now you don't?
When did it come out?
2008,
Ah.
and oh my god, so there's a lot of textures in it, right? Because it's a 3D animated film.
I mean, you'd hope so.
But a lot of them,
If there were few textures, I'd be worried.
a lot of them are low res,
Ah.
and the color scheme isn't all that fitting well together-ish. And it's just not aesthetically pleasing to look at.
They look like marionettes.
Yeah, they're actually based off the Thunderbird marionettes.
Oh, yeah, because like everyone has like a blocky wooden beard. Just one solid piece of matter.
Yeah, and like the animation as well. Some of it's very floaty, and the lip syncing is bad.
Everyone's head looks like part of their skull.
Yeah, but when I started watching the series the week after, the first episode is so much better than the film.
Ah.
So it
the
does
film
improve
come
straight
first?
away. Yeah. So it came out in cinemas, and then I think a few months later the TV show started. But yeah. So I've been watching the show as well, and the show is infinitely better than the film, which I'm so grateful for.
Ah.
They didn't have as much of a budget as they did for their later seasons, like season 4, did they?
No. So towards the later seasons, don't know if you know this, Michael, but George
I
Lucas started
will
putting
not.
his own money into it to
Ah.
increase the budget of it to make it look more cinematic.
And the rendering is gorgeous,
It is so
it is
good.
phenomenal.
Towards the end of this year, we're gonna watch some for this podcast.
Yeah. George Lucas put forward that American Graffiti money.
Yep, all that American Graffiti money. I also watched Toy Story 4 that came out in Australia on Thursday, and I watched it the day of release.
You said it was good.
Yeah, it's good. I really enjoyed it, and it feels like an epilogue to the whole franchise. I really hope they don't do another one. Like, I was iffy on this, and I'm glad they pulled it
They'll
off.
have spec scripts written, surely.
I don't. The way it ends, I don't want there to be another
I remember
one.
reading a news article, or at least the headline of a news article, that said they had a spec script written up almost immediately following Toy Story 3's release.
They actually did, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I heard as
Does
well.
it feel like it's a conclusion, though? Like, no spoilers, of course, but...
I think it does.
Okay.
Even though Toy Story 3 definitely feels
Yeah,
like a
because
conclusion.
Toy Story 3 felt like a massive conclusion.
Well, that's why I feel like this is more of an epilogue than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like a really well thought out story though. Except for Buzz, I have a few problems with him. One basically, but I won't get into that.
But how's the... I'm guessing the animation was a lot better
Oh
than
my
Toy
God,
Story 1.
so much better than Toy Story 1, and it's somehow a lot better than Toy Story 3 as well.
And that was really good as
I know,
well.
but that was 9 years ago. And, I actually went back to watch Toy Story 3 beforehand, and there's a lot of noticeable bump mapping in Toy
Okay.
Story 3, which when I watched it at the time, I was like, oh my god, this looks so real. But watching it now, I can notice little things here and there.
Yeah, that makes sense. As
Yeah.
as
We
time goes on
progress,
and
yeah.
things get more and more
Like,
updated.
in 10 years' time, Toy Story 4 is going to look not as great as I think it does look now. And there's something that Stefan and I have been watching, which is a little show called Amphibia, released on the Disney Channel.
Yep, they've been doing, what is it, like
They're doing episodes...
one episode every 2 days or
No,
something?
one episode from Monday through Thursday until it ends, I think. I'm not... That's what it seems
That
like
is
it
phenomenal. That's like new content like 3 times a week. Four
Monday
times.
through Thursday.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
4
Monday.
days.
Yeah, that's 4 days.
Yeah, and it's a really good show. It feels similar to Gravity Falls, but it isn't, if you know what I mean.
Yep. I get what you mean.
The pacing and the humor is very reminiscent of Gravity Falls, but the own world it's created is really cool. And the animation is really fun. And like the last episode where Anne and Hot Pop try each other's drinks and just go crazy.
Yeah, it's got some real nice surreal animation and just little effects that I was not expecting. Like lots of real cartoony stuff, even an anime burst of like energy.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It's really fun. I would recommend it, Michael. But you're not going to watch it because you're blowing your nose. For other reasons, but that
You're not going to watch it because you'll be dead.
What I really liked about that series in terms of what I
Which
wasn't
series?
Amphibia. What I wasn't expecting is I figured that it'd be a lot more action driven because you got these bouncy little frog characters, but I wasn't expecting the animation writing to be so tight. Like although it's episodic, it's very focused in what each episode is about.
Yeah, each episode is 2 small episodes, but thematically they're similar.
Yeah, so it's 12 minutes per episode.
Well, it's
Oh,
12.
doable.
There's 2 12-minute episodes in an episode.
I like that.
It's under my 90-minute limit.
But yeah, Amphibia is great, so I would recommend it. Although if you're in Australia like us, you won't be able to watch it legally. So Stefan, what have you
So
been
Ben's
watching?
like, so disregard everything we just said. We didn't see it.
Not at all.
What have you been watching apart from Amphibia?
I've been watching quite a lot trying to catch up with stuff. So I'm nearly finished Hilda, the Netflix
okay.
series. That just keeps baffling my mind as to how great it is. Considering it's, you could say, a more independent-based, like, animation. It's so good. I love it. Apart from that, I continued the Cartoon Network Generator Rex. It's a lot... At the start when I introduced the show, I said it wasn't as mature. But
Okay.
I take that back. It is almost too mature at times where it's tackling themes that I don't think kids would really understand. But I really like how it tries to tackle these really big themes. And the character's very likable and it's got some really awesome action scenes. And I just want to keep seeing how far it goes with its scenes before I really talk about it.
Okay.
And the new thing I started watching is the 3D French animation, Miraculous Ladybug.
Yes, the superhero ones with bugs, and that's all I know about it. It's
Yeah.
French.
I saw one picture and went, yep, that's French.
But it actually does look French, though. Like, despite the setting, what you can see, like, the animation style does seem French from what I've seen in other 3D French
Yeah.
animated
Yeah,
films.
a lot of full frontal nudity.
No,
No.
you and
Like-
your nudity.
For example, on Netflix, they did The Little Prince, which was a French animated film. And, like, after seeing that and a few other examples, I have a general idea of what is French animation.
Yeah,
I guess.
The Sonic Boom TV series was also a French-based company, and it has a similar feel. It's like the characters feel very elasticy and energetic, and the rendering feels very like...
Yeah, they just have one render farm they share
Yeah.
between them. All the studios, just
All the
one
French
render
studios got
farm.
They
one
have a
render
similar
farm.
look.
It's on top of the Eiffel Tower. It's where you get the best reception.
I'm pretty sure that's not how the Eiffel Tower works.
No, it's
Or
the
a
Eiffel
render
Tower's
farm.
Eiffel Tower's a huge render farm, Stefan. All of them work in the Louvre.
Okay.
Okay, back to Miraculous Ladybug.
No, it's got phenomenal 3D animation. Like, it doesn't... Some of its appearance looks a bit off-kilter at times, especially when it does its, like, lone CG renders where it just holds on a still frame, and you look at it and go, oh, that looks a bit weird. But when it's in motion, it is really phenomenal and bouncy, and it's got 3D perspectives that are just I've not seen in any other sort of show in this genre.
Okay, cool.
And I also love, because it's an episodic thing where every single episode has a brand new bad guy, which I think is really...
What about that guy with the butterflies?
Yeah, he's the main villain.
Okay.
He's called Hawkmoth. He has one animation they play every episode, and I love it because it's so... It just feels so Sailor Moon-y to have, like, one bad guy who does the one animation and goes, "Oh, I'll get you next time." But yeah, I think it's really great, and I want to see how it develops. Anyhow, great animation, great show. I'll keep looking at it.
Okay, so before we start talking about Garden of Words, I just want to point out that, first of all, it's going to be a spoiler-full podcast. So watch it before you see it, or if you don't care, just listen. And this is going to be a bit shorter because afterwards we're going to be talking about the bunch of trailers that have come out in the last 2 weeks, partly due to Animation Festival.
So, let's get started.
Whoa!
Oh no.
Okay, so Garden of Words. So just some general information before we get into it. So it's a 2013 anime film written and directed by Makoto Shinkai.
And what works has he done before?
So he did Your Name, which
Yes.
is insanely popular at the moment. He's developing the new film, Weathering with You. But yeah, so he's very prolific anime director in today's standards. Like, he's got a very high status. So it was distributed by Toho Co, and it was animated by Comix Wave Films. Its musical score was directed by Daisuke Kashiwa, so different from his usual person he gets to do his music. And the film premiered in the April 2013 Gold Coast Film Festival in Queensland. So
Oh, okay.
Australia
Oh, wow.
got to see this film first.
Yeah!
Go Australia!
Suck on those eggs, other countries.
Eggs. Okay, we'll go with eggs.
Staring at
So it was premiered there before having a Japanese release, starting May 31st, which is interesting because it basically started its release June, and this film takes place in June. That's the whole point of why it was released this time. It's fun.
That must have been a coincidence.
It was purposeful. Not
It
a
must have been a coincidence.
Okay, it was a coincidence.
It's an expertly curated coincidence.
The film had large success at the box office and has won and been nominated for multiple international awards and accolades. I mean, how could it not be? It's just gorgeous.
Except for the Oscars will never recognize anime.
No, we'll get more Boss Babies instead. The best film.
They get nominated.
For Best Animated Feature, yeah.
Oh no.
I know.
Well, I think it deserves some recognition, even though it's no Boss Baby.
You make a very compelling
They
argument,
could have used
Michael.
more Alec Baldwin, in my opinion.
I'm going to pretend you don't exist. Yeah.
Sound just like my parents.
Anyhow, the film had a runtime of 46 minutes and was shown with the 7-minute short Darake no Manazashi. Sorry,
That
I
is
butchered
the
that.
best pronunciation I've ever heard.
Is it like someone's
Say it
gaze
again.
or something?
Yeah, it's called Someone's Gaze.
Yeah.
You remembered it more than me.
I watched it this morning.
Yeah, so it was You watched it this morning? Yeah, 2 weeks.
It was 7 minutes long. I thought I had plenty of time.
Which you did.
I watched the other one yesterday.
Wow. So yeah, that short film was also directed and written by Makoto Shinkai. So I think we'll talk about, before we go into the plot and whatnot, I'll do the info dump here about the director and all that.
Okay.
Is it just the same?
Info dump!
Info dump! So Makoto Shinkai is a Japanese animator and filmmaker who in his early days worked on video game clips and graphic designs before moving on to creating his own independent films. His earliest works, She and Her Cat and Voices of a Distant Star, received high critical reception and won him several awards. Now, I've actually seen Voices of a Distant Star. It was basically his solo work, and it was so independent that the only voices were him and his wife, who
Oh.
voiced everything.
Sorry, are those the two leads? Him and his wife?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they changed it for later releases. It was, you can really see even from these early films, his voice,
His distant voice.
no, he's not, oh my goodness, you and your puns. His style of storytelling is so clear even from there. It's got his elements of trains, he loves his skies, he loves relationships at a distance, he loves straining things, it's
And
just
rain.
all
If he
there.
loves skies and trains, he would love planes.
The
Just
movie.
he would like planes as a concept.
Actually, he doesn't really do much planes.
He should love planes. It
doesn't-
combines his two favourite things.
How
He
does it
does
combine
have some-
trains?
There's sky trains.
So, the early films are what drew attention to him as a filmmaker, allowing Comix to work with him to create longer, higher budget theatrical releases, which started with one of his first larger films, the place promised in our early days, and then 5 centimeters per second.
Are they depressing?
Oh, they are really sad. 5 centimeters per second.
That answer really surprised you.
No.
5 centimeters per second basically sets up this gorgeous relationship and then just leaves it on such an ambiguous note.
That's all his films.
Yeah, but this is even more
Oh,
ambiguous.
Not Your Name. That has a definitive ending.
Yeah,
That does
the
have
two
a
boys fall in love in Italy.
What? No, that's Call Your Name. Oh my goodness. This isn't a French film.
I think it was Italian we established before.
I can't
did.
even tell.
But remember, kids, when you think sexuality, think of the French.
We're going to cut
Something-
everything you say out.
Yep. So, in August 26, 2016, he released Your Name, which was arguably his most prolific and famous work. And it surpassed Spirited Away as the highest grossing anime film of all time.
Wow.
And
Wow.
earned him the international,
It's really good.
audience, and critical praise and
never
acclaim
heard of
that
it.
he's received today. So, he states that his inspiration for all of his works were just basically anime and manga that he read when he was a kid. And he especially emphasizes Hayao Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky as being his main inspiration for how he
Okay.
animates. Have any of you seen that particular Hayao Miyazaki film?
I've seen half of it.
Basically, they have a real emphasis on nature and just stillness. And you can really see that stillness in these films where it'll just focus on like grass or trees or just how the water moves. It's very different to the Western type of filmmaking, which is just like cut, action, and very focused.
Yeah,
in that
we like
sense.
cities. We like bustling. We like
No, we're just a lot
metropolises.
faster paced and focused on the characters rather than focusing on
the environment.
Yeah.
Whereas in these sort of films, like Hayao Miyazaki's and Makoto Shinkai's, the environment plays an important character in itself.
Yeah, I think with a lot of animes, there's always a consistently kind of organic, somber atmosphere to everything. Yeah, especially with this one, just like you can feel it, just how kind of textural everything is.
So, I think this is the only thing he really says, and he always says it as like in his interviews as like an offhand comment, but I think it's very important to how he makes his films. In college, he was a major and studied in classical Japanese literature.
Oh, okay.
So he has a real connection to old poems and how that poetic sense of relationships and like philosophy, which explains why in these films everyone talks like a poet.
Oh, and they mention like haikus a lot, and
Yeah,
like,
tankas.
different
Yeah.
types of Japanese poetry.
That's literally the basis of the two protagonists' relationship.
Yeah, in this story, yeah. So I thought that was really interesting, and it really grounds his stories as part of the Japanese culture. So that's why it's going to be really hard to talk about it in any other length, because we're not Japanese, so we don't
mean-
have that cultural identity to relate to.
I'm half Thai, but that's nothing like Japanese.
That's not Japanese, Ben.
I know.
That's
I'm-
Thai.
I'm 50% Italian and 50% Italian. That equals one Italian.
That equals inbreeding.
No, as for the company he worked with, so Comics Wave Films was established in 2007, the same time he released his first major film. And they are an animation film studio just based in Tokyo, and they're basically only known for their works with Makoto Shinkai. He pretty much made this company with the guys.
Wow.
So, because they did they worked as a small group of animators with him for his independent stuff, and then as he grew with his stories and popularity, the company grew in tandem. So they've very much been closely knit. So I'll go with just a little plot summary that I wrote of Garden of Words. So the film follows 15-year-old Takao Akizuki.
Let's just call him Takao.
Takao.
George Takei.
No.
So he's a young, mature for his age boy who meets an older woman, Yukari Yukuno, at the Shinjuku Gohan Garden.
Aren't you glad you always pick these films, Stephen?
I am so glad. They meet only during rainy mornings, and the two treasure these small moments of company. Though the woman never reveals anything about herself or her work, Takao confides in her his passion for designing shoes and his desire to become a shoemaker. After indirectly learning her identity, the true emotions of the characters are finally revealed as they learn that they've both been teaching each other how to walk. The story finishes with both characters taking steps forwards in their lives and careers. So, when in production of this film, it's very evident even from the get-go that because it's set in a real place in Tokyo, there's a lot of reference footage taken, and there's a lot of
Oh,
reference
really? Is that a real
images.
place?
Yeah, it's a real place.
Yeah,
It's
Tokyo is a real place.
Shinjuku district.
No, the area it takes place in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shinjuku. It's a commercial and business district.
I'm not an idiot. I found out that Tokyo was a real place last week.
Wow! Before you even watched the film, good on you.
Yes,
I did my research. Did my backup research. Found out Tokyo was a real place.
it's because
You know, Japan is also real.
no, it's because his first introduction into anime was Akira. Which takes place in Tokyo, but it was a fictional Tokyo.
Exactly. I thought
So that's
it was
why
just
he
a
was
place from Akira.
exactly.
Stefan.
Yeah.
I can't be blamed for that.
You know, every single thing Japan ever produces is actually just part of the Akira universe.
Oh, wow.
Ah.
Yeah, that explains
So
it.
this
The
is a film-
Japanese cinematic universe.
I like the Japanese cinematic.
It's
universe.
all created by Tetsuo.
You remembered the name.
How do you remember his name but nothing else?
The only line I remember is the last line of the film because I think it's great.
What is it?
Off. I'm Tetsuo.
So, there's a lot of reference footage, and in terms of his interviews, like interviews with the cast, crew, and the director himself, all they ever really say is they just work their butts off, and that's pretty much all they say as to how these films even came to be.
Isn't that literally the quote? That...
Yeah, that's what he said. Well, the translation.
Ah,
of the quote.
okay. Yeah.
But it's interesting how he also said that when he sees something, when he tries to recreate a scene or an image of a real place, he tries to make it as beautiful, and if not the most exaggerated beautiful as he can. Like, he feels that animation is the one media in which you can make things more beautiful than what they are in real life. And that's why he feels this story in particular, which is a very simple story, it could have been told in live action, but for him to give it that extra beauty gives it more meaning.
Like, I'm a firm believer if you work in animation, you should try to make it like something happen that can use the tool of animation well. But the way that Shinkai has described how he uses animation is also a very
I think that's a
good
point.
way to view how to use animation.
I think that's a good point.
Here, it plays with animation in that only to make it more beautiful.
Yeah. It's not
Like
a
the-
way that people would usually use animation for, but it's a very effective way.
Oh yeah, like the emotional climax of this film happens in a stairwell.
And it looks like the
And
most beautiful
And it
stairwell
looks,
in
and
the
it looks
world.
biblical. It's great. And if you really look at it, there's nothing really. He doesn't exaggerate it really.
No.
It's a very stark, honest representation of the world, just with like a little bit of visual flair to it.
Something that he says that he really likes to do as well is he prides himself on making very ordinary things seem beautiful because he says that like the things that are simple and the things that are everyday and normal can be beautiful if viewed through a different lens.
Yeah.
And that's why there's like shots where it just shows a phone on a carpet charging.
That was
Such
really
a
nice.
realistic scene, but it looks gorgeous. Like
Yeah.
that little scene is perfect.
And you could like see all the effort they put into just that one image.
yeah.
But it's just so effective.
And in all of his films, he has that where it just it'll cut away to someone like flipping a book or putting chalk on a chalkboard. Just very
Yeah.
small instances that are everyday things,
Just-
but they're given such levity and meaning.
And
Yeah,
life.
Life, yeah.
I don't think you meant levity. I think levity means like comedic.
Yeah.
Something comedic.
Yeah, sorry, I meant life is a better description.
Yeah.
Lifety. Coining a
Do you know,
term.
I used to think ethereal was pronounced earthreal.
I used to
Earthreal. I love it.
I still have nightmares over the fact that I used to think Harbinger was pronounced Hairbringer.
Hairbringer.
Like that, like it gives me nightmares.
I could imagine that. I am the hairbringer of death.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have very stark, vivid memories of like saying that word with pride.
Behold my crew cut.
The hairbringer of the apocalypse.
Don't you just love?
Sounds like a
knowing
guy
words from
bringing
reading?
dinner back to his family in like the 1800s.
Except for like a really disgusting hair field.
Yeah, it's like I've shot a hair.
I went to the barber shop and put some cream cheese with the hair.
You weren't the breadwinner when you were like a lumberjack in the 1700s. You were a hairbringer.
So bad.
Okay.
Shoot rabbits so your wife wouldn't die of dysentery.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, back to the film.
I think we'll just go with the themes before we go through it one by one?
Are feet in this film kind of like a metaphor for like progress?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
the shoes, really.
Okay.
Shoes, walking,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
standing on your own.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first thing that me and Ben Ben will help me because I can't explain it very well.
Because I can't read.
Is the theme of love, or the Japanese meaning for it being koi.
Okay.
Because I tried looking this up, and I can't find any other explanation for it except the one that Makoto Shinkai says himself within the context to this film. So I've got a bit here I'll read first.
Yeah. Koi is
So-
a good word, I think, to describe this film.
I thought koi was a fish, to be honest.
It
It's also a
is.
fish.
So he says that love in the terms of koi means like a sense of lonely sadness, longing for someone in solitude. Not really a romantic love, reflected in the European and Western sense, which is expressed by the Japanese word for love, I. But this is a foundational platonic love in the sense of companionship and understanding. And also just like a presence, having someone that understands and just listens to you, sort of thing.
I can't really add to that because that's all I think about it too. Yeah.
Oh, cool, I did something adequate.
Yeah. But like I learned that from there's this really great video essayist on YouTube called Sage's Reign, and he does a really good video on the Garden of Words. Yeah, and like he discusses koi and how that goes into the whole film.
There are so many video essayists out there.
Yeah,
this
especially
one's
for
really good.
especially for anime stuff. People really look into these themes and try to nail it down and make it seem as artistical as possible.
Yeah. It's really oversaturated. Like podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts suck.
Yeah, exactly. There's way too many of them.
But did you watch the video I sent you though?
Yeah, I did.
Did you like it?
I did. I think they're a bit pretentious at times, though. But I think everyone who goes into the anime genre is pretentious because they're like, oh, look at the art forms and the character arcs, when really, at the bottom line, it's probably just, haha, we draw sexy characters because sexy characters sell.
They
But-
sell ours.
No, not, oh, forget it.
I like how you're such a fan, but you have like a mildly cynical view on the industry.
I mean, I think that's everyone who's in that industry.
I love Star Wars, but there's so much I hate about it.
Exactly. No one hates Star Wars like Star Wars.
But I
fans.
love it so much at the same time.
Like, I think I hate comic books to some extent. There's too much of it. God, just stop for a couple of years. Give us a break.
So I've got a quote here that he actually said about the term koi in his film. So this is the first time we've tried making a love story, the traditional Japanese meaning of the word, at one time. Love was written as lonely sadness, and the modern concept of love of romantic love is imported from the West. So I've tried to make this film a modern retelling of this traditional Japanese concept of love.
Yeah.
So he's in that sense, he's also trying to bring something like his classical literature thing, something from the past, and give it life in the modern sense and make it seem relevant again. Like trying to bring those traditional values across, which I can really respect.
Yeah, I do really like how they decided to do a non-romantic type of love between them, because I don't think there's enough relationships like that shown in media in general. Because either it's like, oh, they're just close or friends, or they're in love. They can't be just companions for life, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice to have a view that isn't normally presented in media.
Just like a platonic friendship.
Yeah.
It's really odd because the only other film that I can think of that does this sort of relationship, and Michael's going to laugh the second I say it, but Mad Max Fury Road, because
He did laugh.
No, but that relationship between Max and Furiosa is very much this. They trust
Yeah.
each other with their lives and understand each other on an unspoken level.
To be
But
fair, the two protagonists in this didn't try and stab each other the moment they met.
yeah, but that in itself is an understanding. But like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
in this similar sense
Yeah.
where it doesn't go beyond. It's not a romantic love. It's an understanding and a companionship.
Yeah.
And it's not a found family trope either. Yeah, it's just
I thought that's where it was going at the start, because he had like he had absentee parents.
absentee dad, at least.
Oh, yeah. I mean, both of them are absent.
So the other one, which is very, very obvious, is loneliness. All of his films have loneliness. Like, this guy must be really alone at times because these characters just suffer through a depression of just like, oh yeah, everything sucks.
Well, it might not be Shinkai himself. He might have just have close friends and stuff who have felt all this, because Bring it back to Adam Elliott. That's how he gets his stories, from people around him.
Adam, if you're listening to this, which you definitely are, come on the podcast.
Please.
We can't pay you, but Stefan can get you a glass of water.
A thing that is in all of his films, in terms of, again, a lot of his films are about relationships and how humans interact, is distance. And this can be both physically, emotionally, or in this case, it's in age and them just being worlds apart. Like, your main character, Takao, is separated by Yukino in terms of age. Like, there's like a 10-year age gap. Distance in that they only meet when it's raining and they never really meet any other time. And worlds apart in which one's an adult and one's a teenager. Takao really, like, elevates that stage of adult. He thinks adulthood is the stage of growth where you can you know everything and life is in your hands. Whereas Yukino is in adulthood and she's still lost. She even says she's as lost as she was when she was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And so
There's a lot of talk about kind of emotionally and, like, in terms of your life journey, just stagnating.
Yeah.
And just jogging in place.
Stillness. And that is miserable. I find that like stagnant movement just really sad.
And that's why we started a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that hurt. Damn.
So, Makoto's films usually explore how distance can evoke a greater sense of longing for sadness and a strain to a relationship, whether it be romantic or platonic. Like, he'll usually have the characters be close for a moment, and then he'll just put them at other edges of the universe and say, deal with it, you jerks. Like, in the first short film he made, Voices of a Distant Star, he puts these people who have this connection and then says, okay, the girl's now going to go into space to fight aliens in a giant robot, and every time she tries to send a mail, it's going to take 8 years for her message to be received. And that distance immediately puts a strain that the characters try to understand, how does that affect how I feel about this person? Like, that sort of thing.
And it happens in Your Name too. I won't get into it because Michael hasn't seen it, but like the twist of it,
Yeah.
that like how they're separated is really effective.
Your Name very much combines all of Makoto's themes as well as a more westernized version that Westerners could like appreciate and understand.
Yeah, it did feel a bit westernized, but not in a bad way.
Shinkai actually tries to do that in that he tries to make his films accessible to as many people as possible. Kind of like how Hayao Miyazaki would make his films an art piece that anyone could enjoy, so to speak. So nature, rain, this is a story about rain. It's very obvious that nature plays a role in that. It's unstoppable. It's just this force of, well, nature. And in terms of what it is, it's trying to it kind of reflects like our base fundamental human natures. Like, it's nothing that you can really control, nature. If it rains, it rains. And
If it pours, it pours.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But in this sense, the rain is what connects these two characters. It's because anyone can understand the rain. And for them, although they're worlds apart, they're separated by age, them being stuck hiding for shelter under the rain is something that anyone could be in that situation. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're stuck in the rain, you're stuck in the rain. It's a feeling that anyone can understand.
What if you live in the desert?
Well, I don't know. Sandstorms, sand rain.
Ah,
Is sand
sand
rain a
rain.
thing?
Sand rain.
Mud.
Sandstorm.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds kind of romantic, actually. I could go for a sandstorm. Nice, soft sandstorm.
Nice, lovely, soft, skin-blasting sandstorm.
Ah, lovely.
Ever since I held your hand, it was so romantic until the skin came off.
Then it was kind of just gross and disgusting.
Yeah, slipped off like a glove.
Ew. The last thing I want to say is how he places an emphasis on the normality of life and how beautiful mundane things can be, as I've touched on before. But I've written here that day-to-day occurrences are recreated in such detail or are held with such focus that each moment is emphasized as its own little human achievement. And I've added that, like, a story like this doesn't need a big climax, and that any story can be massive if its emotional heart is strong and true.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Except, I think that Your Name does, which is the film, his most recent film, he does both of those. He has a story that is very small and has a massive heart, but then he has this even grander story and this sci-fi element to it that gives it an extra burst of energy. Whereas this Garden of Words is a very slow and just small little reflective piece, I find.
Okay, so Stefan's already said the summary, so I guess we'll just start off animation-wise. What do you think of it, Michael?
Yeah, in general, like opening comments.
It's beautiful.
What do you think of it, Stefan?
This is very simple, sincere praise.
Have you ever seen animation like this before?
No, I haven't really watched anime before.
But any animation, like at all, have you ever seen something like?
Not really. Just like nothing has kind of that made kind of both nature and urban sprawl so kind of beautiful and dreamlike, and there's this kind of visual romanticism that kind of punctuates this guy's work. One of my favorite shots in the film is just him making like a puddle.
Yeah.
Look like this. It's just beautiful. Just like
It's towards the start of the film. He's
towards
walking...
the start of the film, so I can't articulate anything because my brain is on fire. But yeah, it's like a close up of the protagonist's feet as he walks across a little footbridge in a park, and it just shows like how like the reflection and just like this beautiful like distorted refracted image of his feet as he walks across the bridge. It's the whole thing's beautiful, and again, that goes back to kind of focusing on the shoes as a metaphor for like progress through
and
your life,
learning to walk and whatnot.
Actually, the closest thing I can think of that is like this visually would be the Pixar short film Blue Umbrella.
I haven't seen
Yep,
that.
I can actually see that.
I've not seen that.
Oh, it's very hyper real and also takes place
I
in
bet
the
it's
rain
no
as well.
Mater and the Ghost Light.
No, because it's 10 million times better than that. Stefan's laughing without making sounds.
Where did that reference come from? Why would you say that out of anything in existence?
Oh, that's what I was talking about. Next week we're going to review Mater and the Ghost Light.
Get stuffed!
Okay, but in all honesty, yeah, like Blue Umbrella actually does kind of feel like this. It focuses on like the beauty of this urban sprawl, and it has a very simple story, but it's very personal and emotional. So yeah, but that's the only thing I can think of that is similar to this.
There was is there like a cultural apprehension in Japan towards growing up? Is there like a broad kind of social anxiety towards aging and responsibility?
Because you got to realize,
Yeah, all the anime we've watched for this. Have
yeah,
got to
like
do with that.
that's the thing. Like I remember watching. It's like, oh, it's as soon as it starts, like, oh, it's a coming of age story. Like a lot of like a staple kind of the coming of age genre also is like Rain as kind of like a puberty kind of metaphor.
Transition.
Yeah, like it's this mediatory transitional period.
in a lot of Japanese manga and anime, all the protagonists are in everything's set in high school. It's almost like there's no life after high school. So you got to realize once you get over high school and you get over like learning and being stuck in a place, what is there? And in Japan, and especially these media, that's something that's terrifying. Because even the character in Garden of Words, the 27-year-old woman, she feels that she's still stuck as she was 15 years ago. She doesn't understand anything. And so a lot of these media try to tackle that unanswerable question of how do you walk on your own? How do you grow up? Sort of thing. So it is a thing that's very culturally recognized as a theme that's apparent.
So that makes sense. Like why so much of like animated Japanese media it takes place in high schools and these kind of transitional stages of a lot of people's lives.
What about your opening thoughts, Ben?
Okay, so in Your Name as well, they have this very liberal use of how they use the different layers of the animation, like how it's composited together. I forgot what you called it, but for me it's like digital multiplane camera.
Yeah, I was gonna say digital multiplayer.
I like how
So
that one better.
If you don't know what a multiplane camera is, it was basically invented by Disney back in the 30s or 40s. Instead of just having your background and animating on top of that, you would have all these different layers. So you have the background, then you have some trees in the background, and then you have like some rocks and stuff, but all on painted on different panes of glass.
That way, when you move the objects, you actually get a very literal parallax effect.
Yeah, like when you move the camera across the pieces of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is done to a very large extent digitally in this film.
Oh, this is done to its absolute peak, I think.
Like, there's so much, like, use of focus, and it's, like, all really blurred, but really beautiful, and it's all done to perfection.
But, yeah, I think it really achieves a really high aesthetic with just how it uses all those techniques and that. And I
Again-
especially love how it uses camera blurs and that.
Again, it's something which people could try to do this with live action, but because they beautify it to such an extent, it just works so wonderfully, and it's such a visual treat to watch.
Not much I can say opening thoughts other than, oh goodness, how sexy are those train scenes? I love those train fetish scenes. Amazing trains everywhere.
That's,
So
a real,
you
that's,
said-
a, that's a real Hitchcockian thing to sexualize a train.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you
it
said
really
he
is.
uses trains and sky shots and rain as well.
Yeah,
in pretty much all his films.
Makoto Shinkai always has skies in his films. He loves looking at skies, and he loves his trains. Like, there's always going to be a train. You got to have a climax scene on a train. It's like, even in the background of every scene, it's like, oh, there's a train in the background.
I like the part in this film when the boy fought his teacher on top of the train,
Oh yeah, that was great.
and then he had to stop it using his spider webs,
oh, lovely.
and then he passed out just before the train went off the track, and they all carried him into the train, and they put his mask back on and said, "Don't worry, Spider-Man, your secret's safe with us." This is the film we watched.
Quick little fun reference before we go into just going through chronologically. The teacher in this film, so Yukino, is Mitsuha's teacher in Your Name.
Oh, okay.
It's just
The same
an
character
Easter egg.
design?
Yeah,
Or-
same.
So that's where she moved at the end of the film.
So
yeah.
it basically How does it start? Actually,
Sadness.
it starts.
And then it ends with sadness.
It starts with like that
the
foot
rain
shot.
drops.
Oh yeah. So back in the Toy Story episode, which we did last, Stefan mentioned that he thinks they rotoscoped the rain on the window for the 3D.
It'd be difficult
rain.
to do that, wouldn't it?
Well, they rotoscoped the rain for this film.
They actually
definitely.
rotoscoped the rain?
It
Yeah,
definitely
look at
looks-
that rain. That rain is so realistic looking.
Wow.
The first shot is like looking at a lake, and it has like the
I mean,
raindrops.
there's a lot of like digital trickery and stuff in this film.
No, but
right?
there's even close-ups of raindrops, which you can actually see
the
all-
individual like
like how
Yeah.
light refracts through them.
Yeah.
Wow.
there is way too much detail in this film.
There is too much. It shouldn't exist.
So
Should burn all copies.
the first sequence is basically just Takao going from the train, because it's got to start on that sexy train,
oh, sexy,
and it goes
sexy
to
train.
the just the meeting place where he meets Yukino, and the transition from going there has just this gorgeous array of just visuals in terms of light refracting off metal, and it's gorgeous just looking at how hand painted every mat is, and how
Oh, the mats
even-
in this are beautiful.
even
yeah.
the mats have like this reflection, and there's this part, the one you mentioned, where he's walking across the like puddles or something, and you see the mirrored image of his legs. Like, that's gorgeous.
I especially like Japanese animation is particularly good at like over detailed matte paintings. Especially
Yeah.
the one in his room when he's studying up on like
Oh
cobbling.
yeah.
Yeah, that was incredible. Just every single book and like all his clothes hung up. You like all individual creases in fabric were all rendered properly and all drawn out.
Do you want to say what you were going to say before about his study? That if it were like a Disney thing, it would be all neat and clean and
No,
not
but it's
cluttered at
messy.
all. But it's messy, but it's like very cozy.
It feels lived
And-
in.
No,
Yeah.
there's a beautiful messiness. It feels warm.
Yeah.
Again, it's that organic, just normalness that is so beautiful, and it's captured so wonderfully.
Yeah, I love the word domesticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the word I feel kind of describes it quite aptly.
A very prominent style choice in this film that is not in the other Makoto Shinkai films is how the highlights of every character in every scene has like a white outline. So usually, you know how in Disney films they color outlines? In this, only the highlights have like a white outline. And I think that gives it a very like impressionist painting sort of aesthetic, which really suits the aesthetic of the garden.
Okay, so let's talk about their first meeting. How they're just awkwardly sitting across each other.
I like
Yeah.
that. Like, yeah,
It's a very real.
It starts off.
realistic
It starts off a
depiction.
bit awkward and kind of there's some emotional dissonance there, and then they slowly kind of they're kind of slowly attracted to each other over time.
Okay, so we know that she's the teacher at the school that he's skipping at. They're
Yeah.
both skipping school. Does she know he goes to that school?
She does. There's
Oh, yeah, was
That's
he wearing
why-
the uniform? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you actually notice, she looks at the symbol on his left pocket, and then her
okay.
eyes perk up, and that's where she recites that poem.
Why was she so surprised to see him at the school later on?
Because I don't know.
What are you doing at the school you go to?
No. Because I think that was more of an emotional sense in that she didn't expect to see him anywhere else but that zone when it's raining.
Okay, yeah.
It's that distance thing where you think she's only ever met him when it's raining, and this wasn't raining, and yet there he is. It's kind of an unreal
It's
sort
like
of
a Guns N'
sensation.
Roses song. I've only ever met you when it's raining.
So after that, it basically shows Takao's home life with the mum's basically left.
Oh, we forgot to say that what's the teacher's name?
Yukino.
Yukino. She leaves the balcony thing saying this cryptic poem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to do with the weather. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Okay, then it goes to Takei's home.
So I think we can all admit that when he's cooking the food, that food animation is gorgeous.
Oh,
the
so
food
good.
looks so spongy. It looks delicious. It's got whenever they do food in anime, it's always like a different color of vibrancy. Like everything is like one saturation. Then the food saturation is like turned up to 11 and it just looks lovely.
See, that's something that
Something
I
not-
don't think
yeah.
has been done successfully in 3D animation, which is food.
Food never. Oh, actually,
Like
what am I
they've
thinking of?
they've gotten better, definitely.
Yeah.
But compared to anime food, it has got nothing on that.
Anime, I don't know. Animes just love doing their foods almost as much as those sexy train scenes.
Ah.
Gotta love those train scenes. No, so what else happens in that scene? That's where it shows Takao's study, and again how I just love light reflecting on everything in this film is done with such incredible detail.
There's a lot of rainbows because of it.
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
like little rainbows even under the desk and everything. It doesn't
But-
make any sense.
But artistically, it's very, very appealing.
This is one of those films where you could take any freeze frame and it looks like an art piece. It's just so much work into its composition and how it looks visually. It shows that chalk animation we mentioned.
Oh yeah. So, just drawing on a chalkboard, you see the speckles of the chalk come off from scraping against the board.
And again, because it's
Yeah, that's beautiful.
as he
Yeah.
said, he exaggerates things to make things beautiful. So that there's like this thing is pouring out
It's
like
not
chalk
it's not
off
a big
things.
it's not a big cloud, but it is
No.
a little bit enough to get the point across, but enough to show
Yeah,
the
but-
beauty of it.
And
as
again,
well.
it's that marriage of just like the mundane and the the beautiful, basically.
Yeah,
The
Like-
mundane and the beautiful. Tune in next Wednesday.
Yeah, it sounds like a soap, doesn't it?
So they meet the next time under that balcony thing that I'll never find out what the word of that.
Let's
is.
just call it
Gazebo. It's a gazebo. Isn't
Gazebo.
it? Casino. It's
Is
a
that like
casino.
A
medicine?
casino. Okay.
Is that like medicine you take if you want to test the effects?
No, that's
No,
placebo.
that's a placebo.
Placebo, Stefan.
No, so they meet again, and even
Placebo.
at this stage, it's becoming evident that both characters are kind of treasuring just being here with being together with these little moments.
And this slow build up to their relationship and their companionship and the koi is really effective in that because it's slow and it's very natural, it's really engaging to watch.
Yeah, I love how unique the shots they choose in that gazebo are. Like they could choose any old
Stefan?
mid-range shot.
Say gazebo.
Gazebo. They could choose any shot to tell the story, but they choose like little unique ones, like high up where you can see the higher trees, and they always put it at a point where you can see some nature around it to spark either interest or little metaphors you can take from it. But from here, it does the classic Makoto Shinkai thing he does, where he has like a little musical montage that shows the progression of a relationship. No, but it's an interesting thing how montage of music is the thing that he uses to like shift between details, and it's things that can easily be inferred. Like you can tell that these two would grow together, like in this moment. And instead of showing each individual meeting, they just use the music to just kind of tie it all together. Then, because he's Makoto Shinkai, he decides, I'm going to change this, I'm going to test the relationship by cutting them off completely. And so summer begins. Oh no, summer doesn't begin first, but he kind of strains it so that they don't see
The
each
wet
other as
season
often.
is ending.
Yeah. It shows this. Did you guys see anything weird about when it goes to Yukino's apartment? You know where she's on the phone with that person in her apartment? What did you guys think that person was? Like,
Yeah, it has no impact on the film apart from that phone call. Why show him?
Well,
No.
I think you could kind of link it to the fact that he was a past partner of her, and she seems
Yeah.
to constantly not be able to walk from her past. And also, it seems like he was maybe a co-worker at the school, and that's where they got this relationship. And if you notice, when it shows him, there's actually a woman you can see behind the blinds.
Oh, okay.
So it's obvious he's in another relationship.
Oh, that's sad.
And you don't.
Yeah,
know-
she's always confiding in people who are romantically unavailable.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's just a funny thing to note. Like,
Yeah.
Funny,
whatever.
sad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she just needs a personal platonic connection with people.
And she
then
can't seem to achieve that.
yeah, and then the protagonist mistakes that for a romantic love.
But he's only 15 years old, so it makes sense why he wouldn't be able to see much of the complexities other than he thinks he loves her.
It was kind of distracting in the English dub when the guy that voiced him was clearly like 35.
Yeah.
I'm just a 15-year-old boy.
See, Stefan said it was better to have that voice as...
I liked it in the sense that it made Takao seem mature. And the problem is, like, in anime things, high school, everyone's usually over the top. Like, everyone's got these bizarre personalities and they're always loud and whatnot. Whereas Takao is meant to be a character who's distanced himself from that world. He doesn't go out. He does a job. He just...
Yeah, he's trying to grow up
more
before
mature.
he seems like hellbent on trying to grow up before his time.
Yeah.
Like he idealizes adulthood as like a
the ultimate
li-
thing
like,
to
yeah,
do.
yeah, like a point when just like
you can make your dreams real.
yeah, and where just stability is a given, but then he meets a woman that kind of shows him that no, just because like adulthood doesn't guarantee any of that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's still a
but
mess.
your progress is entirely up to your own effort.
And I guess that's why he does fall in love with the teacher, because he's trying to progress that part of his life as well.
Yeah.
And also, she's the only person he can confide in these
Yeah.
aspirations, and that person doesn't laugh.
Yeah,
at him.
because like his brother's
brother's
totally
not
supportive
supportive at all.
Is it like an odd kind of like fatalism when the boy believes in kind of this like almost like a fate, this natural progression into adulthood when just the natural order of things is just you kind of work your life out and stability comes naturally. But then this film is kind of an antithesis of that, saying that no, it like adulthood doesn't guarantee any of this. It's like your destiny is up to your own jurisdiction.
There's a shot where I laugh at it every time I see it because it's just needlessly pointless. Where it shows this skyscraper.
Oh yeah,
really
the 3D
does like a 3D pan with a bird running like flying around it. Like
a rotation. Yeah,
why do you need that? Like
It's beautiful though.
yeah, it is.
it's such a climactic image. It's like this has nothing to do with anything.
Except for when the bird goes, "I'm a birdie, caca."
I love that line. Ben improv that line and made the film 100% better. And I think it should be released in all the dubs. It
Thank
is
you.
completely necessary to
Oh
the
look, two people
interpretation.
in the park that I can shit on.
Okay,
No, I liked that really blurred the line between like matte painting and 3D.
Yeah, it really did.
digitization, because like I genuinely couldn't tell at what point it switched from like a matte to a 3D render.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been a 3D render the whole time. I don't know.
The next important meeting between Yukino and Takao
is that the
is
school?
no, the foot meeting.
Oh
Where-
yeah.
So basically, she buys Takao this book he's always wanted. Oh, by the way, they've been sharing food and whatnot, so they've become close at this stage. And she gives the book he's always wanted, and he says something like, "Oh, I've been trying to make these shoes, but I don't have have the right model to
The right resources
The
to
right-
know how
yeah,
to make.
to-
them.
Like-
Yes, the book simply titled Shoes.
when he touches her feet, he basically stands up on the bench thing and he traces around the feet to get the dimensions to make the shoes. There's some really tender, just little animation moments of him holding the foot and whatnot.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that scene?
It was very intimate. It wasn't creepy or anything, but yeah, I just wasn't expecting that level of intimacy at that point.
Yeah. I think it towed the line of inappropriate. That's kind of a pun. I mean, not. I think it comes off as overall like very tender.
Yeah.
And very comforting. Like it is intimate. They're confiding a lot within each other, and it's represented through making shoes.
Yeah.
For
However, when I talked to one of my friends about doing this film, they said, "Oh yeah, there's the foot fetish film."
I don't think it's that at all.
I mean,
Yeah,
but it's not that. But there's a lot.
I know it's not that, but
there's a lot of focusing on feet.
Yes.
But at the same time, again, it's that metaphor for your journey through life and your means of propulsion.
Why focus on feet when you could focus on those sexy trains in the background?
Oh, I love trains so
those
much.
trains are great.
Especially-
This is where summer ends up happening in the film, and so they don't meet again because that connection of the rain isn't there anymore. So they just don't find a reason to meet.
But then they meet again on the first day of
I'm
school.
just thinking of sexy trades.
Oh my god.
Oh, non-stop to Belgrave.
Oh my goodness, shut up!
What do you think
Oh,
of
we're not stopping at East Richmond.
what do you think of the Thomas the Train series?
Oh, the sexiest thing I've ever seen.
They have faces.
That Ringo Starr with that chocolatey voice.
So, when they do meet, what I find is important to the character of Takao is that he only ever learns Yukino's name from passing, and it's indirect. Like, he learns it because his friends recognize her as a teacher and go up to her to comfort her.
And it's pretty much the first time he's learned anything about her as well.
Yeah, I find that really sad that the first time he thought he really understood this person and he could really confide in her, and yet the only time he learns something, it's because it's indirect. He just learns it from passing.
Why was there this apprehension from her to reveal anything about herself? I mean, obviously because she's the teacher and it might make the relationship a little awkward and strained. But
That's exactly it.
is that just
yeah,
it?
that's it.
Yeah, okay.
And
I guess
also,
it's-
she doesn't open up as a
But
person.
not about her name or anything. Or,
No.
And I guess it's nice just to have this one companion who you can just feel open with when you want. Because they meet and there is this involvement, as you said, when they're not in the rain and they're not just with each other, able to confide with each other, it would create this sort of tension between them.
Yeah.
I do like when they do pass each other in the hall. They both kind of perk up because it's like they're really shocked that the other is even there. Like, it's almost as if they did not think the other could exist in any other place but that rainy
Yeah, I
area.
like that. Like, yeah, they're bound to a location.
And what ends up happening, as you know, by the end of the film, is
isn't that
that ends up like developing where
Yeah.
it ends up the sun ends up shining, and it's like, oh, now they can share their relationship anywhere, not just in the rain.
Is that a Japanese thing where like spirits or like emotional resonance can be tied to a place?
Maybe.
Like,
I'm not too confident.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure.
Again, none of us are Japanese or have ever been to Japan.
Because this is way out of left field, but a lot of like Japanese ghost stories have
Are tied to a place.
tied
or
to
a
tied to
shrine.
locations. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we find out that the teacher is leaving because of rumors that she's been getting on with kids at the school.
Which is not true. It's
Yeah,
just
it's not
made by
true.
these delinquent jerks who Takao tries to punch up.
Yeah, and then he gets injured, and then he says he almost got hit by a train.
Yeah, he actually meets Yukino under the balcony in a different place of the Shinjuku Park, but when it's not raining. And for them, that's almost a leap forward in their relationship because they can actually see each other when it's not raining.
And he also replies with the second half of that
Tonka, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, there's not much to really say visually because everything in this film is gorgeous.
Yeah,
and you could
again.
write a whole thesis on how beautiful everything is. But after this, a rainstorm happens, a flash of lightning which looks stunning. Like that matting of that lighting is just gorgeous. It's a long lightning burst too. It goes for like 2 to 3 seconds.
Yeah. And then they have to go into... I keep forgetting the teacher's name. I'm sorry. But they go to the teacher's apartment and try to freshen up after being caught in the rain.
And that's when they're separated for like one's at the kitchen bench, one's at the just on the sill, and they say something like, "This is the happiest moment of my life."
And then the kid ruins it all.
Yeah, the kid then says, "Oh, I think I'm falling in love with you."
Which is the worst thing to say, especially when your teacher's being accused of pedophilia.
Yeah,
Why?
not
Why
a-
would you say
Not
that?
a good time in there.
Emotionally, I really like it. But logically,
She's also
But these are all fueled by emotion.
I know.
and she's touched by when he says it.
This
Like,
is-
she's notably she like blushes. It's like, oh, okay, I understand that. But then she tries to.
This is why when you pick this, like watching through it, it's like this is very you. Like it will just completely like this connection to emotion and like enjoying media that is influenced by emotion rather than logic. It's why you like kind of expressionists and emotional surrealism kind of stuff.
Kind of, but I just chose this for the sexy train scenes.
I get it emotionally. I'm just logically. I don't like it because of those rumors, and it just ruins. It puts pressure on her.
Yeah.
It does, but try to remove yourself from that and
I
take
know.
it as the emotional story. I
do like where it goes to for the very climax. Okay.
What
just
basically
continue.
happens is Yukino, because she's put this barrier and says, "Oh, I'm your teacher. I'm a teacher. Remember?" The Takao pretty much goes, "Okay, I'll leave now." He gets his stuff and goes. He says, "Thank you very much for all you've done," and just leaves without any other word. And that's when Yukino's character basically goes, "I've said nothing I need to say something to him. After everything he's done and after everything I've done, I can't leave it like this. So she does this really gorgeous run. I love that run animation where it's running towards the camera. It looks so clumsy and organic. It's great. But I also love the music there because it's the first time it peaks up in a more optimistic and bouncy
It's hard enough
way.
to do like a walk cycle, but a completely organic one that doesn't reuse frames. That's amazing.
And also, she runs down the stairs at the side of the apartment and she trips. There's a very, very apparent animation smear.
Yeah.
I really like that. It's the one action scene in the film. It's like
why
her
not
tripping.
Why not go all out with just the one animation?
Yeah, this is going to be our big climax. It's like, oh, what did you animate? I animated the big action scene in Garden of Words. What was it? A woman tripping.
I love that though. Just that it's so mundane, but there's this like kind of
Urgency and there's this
there's
power
surgery.
to it.
There's a poetry to all of it.
Anyhow, she confronts with Takao, and I love how she stands there quite like she stands her ground and just looks directly at him, and her eyes, although her eyes water, the animation makes it so that her expression still stays kind of firm and like making sure she listens to everything he has to say before she says her part.
Yeah.
And it's the first time Takao really breaks his emotionlessness that he's kind of shown and has a lot of emotion in his voice, both in the dub and in the sub version.
Instead of just trying to just be a mature person, he's just lets his vulnerability go up. And
Yeah, he shows his age. He's a kid.
Yeah.
And he even says, I'm a kid, and you never told me these sort of things. It was hard for me. I was trying to understand these emotions, and I could not read you at all. And then she basically embraces him in the best looking hug ever.
Which you think is going to be her jumping off the building, but isn't.
I thought it was going to end in a suicide.
I did not think that. You guys are sad.
She looks at the space beside him
Yeah.
and then runs.
I did not think that at all.
There's like an establishing like negative space shot. So I
Yeah.
thought she would
Maybe
throw
there's
herself
an
off.
alternate version where she did
And then she hugged him. I was like, oh no, is she going to like pull them both over?
Oh, I didn't think that. Okay.
I thought it was going to be
But-
like a Holmes and Moriarty thing when he just like puts him in a
Yeah.
chokehold and jumps off the waterfall.
But I really liked when she embraced him and said, you saved me from that depression I was in. And like, it really cements the koi and companionship that they have.
Also, when the sun like rises when she goes to embrace him, that's gorgeous. Like that sun animation was
Oh,
amazing.
Especially the
that
last
line.
shot of the film is gorgeous. Yeah.
I also I love how anime animates tears. Tears feel so like a gushing of tears. Like tears don't work like that.
It's like you've hit it like a tear artery.
Yeah,
Well, obviously, you've never cried before.
I've never cried like that before. Tears look both the ugliest thing in this film and yet really beautiful. Like
Just
I
like the
that.
rain.
Yeah, just like rain. No, rain always looks beautiful in this film, not ugly.
No, I meant like something that might be considered
There's
ugly.
Yeah.
but it's
beauty in
beautiful.
everything, Stefan. That's his whole MO.
Yes, especially trains.
Ooh, I love those
Ooh,
trains.
And the bird.
And that bird, the bird. That's
Why don't
very
we be
important.
real naughty and stop at East Richmond?
No, but that's pretty much the film ends with them. They go their separate ways. Another musical montage plays, and it basically shows that Takao is now moving on. He's trying to make his shoes, and he ends up finishing the pair of shoes that he made for Yukino, and he puts them on the same place that they first met.
If the teacher is at another school teaching and is moving away, how would she get those shoes?
I don't know. I think it's more metaphorical.
I know it's
in the sense,
metaphorical.
but I just like the image that he finally finishes those shoes in the winter and puts them there, just knowing that they'll see each other again in some
Yeah.
form or another.
Yeah, I
That
do
they're
like that
always
message.
Connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we do final thoughts?
Final thoughts, everyone.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. Been pleasantly surprised with the anime selection you've given, except Fully Cooley. That
So you're surprised about 2/3 of the anime selection.
I really enjoyed Akira, and this was great. This was genuinely one of not just anime, but animation in general. Just one of the more visually striking things I've watched ever. Like to the point where like something as mundane and visually benign as a phone vibrating can look incredible, like an art piece.
Wait till you watch Your Name.
Oh, Your Name is great. You've got to watch it.
Okay, we'll watch that another time then.
We will.
No.
Yeah, but I'm in the same boat as Michael.
week.
I really loved it, and like I don't watch that much anime. I'm in between Michael and Stefan, but I'm super glad I watched this, and I've added it to my collection at home with all the other Blu-rays. So many.
This film has a relationship that I really love. I love the relationship between these two characters. And as you've said, Ben, that coy feeling is not said in a lot of films. That companionship is not one that is really said in many films at all. Or
Especially between, like, a male and a woman.
no,
in a
it's usually
heteronormative
always romantic or something like that.
Yeah.
But this, it really strikes on an emotional core, both with its visuals and its messages. And I love how still everything is, and yet how vibrant. Like, it creates a stillness through just how much vibrant beauty it just throws at you. It's amazing. And the attention to detail, the fact that it really treasures every little moment that it creates. I absolutely love it. I think it's incredible and worth a watch considering it's only 45 minutes.
Okay. So that is the Garden of all the talking
And
words.
trains.
Garden of the Galaxy.
So what are we talking about now, Ben?
So, last week was the Annecy Animation Festival in France. Yeah, so that means there were a lot of animated trailers that came out.
A lot, like a lot.
Probably more than we've talked about previously. So, yeah, so the first trailer that came out from the last 2 weeks was Frozen 2. What did you think?
Such a fun. It's
I
so
know.
it's like it's taken everything cringy from Frozen, gotten rid of it, and made it a fun adventure film like it should have been.
Exactly. Adventure films, I don't think there's enough of them at the moment. Because I love, like, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
They're great.
This even
And-
had shots that
yeah.
reminded me of Indiana Jones, just with its visuals and the greens it chooses.
Yeah, and the visuals as well. They've really expanded everything with this world.
Yeah.
And, like, there's even that really great moment where there's, like, that particle effect horse and giants as well. That really feel like old-time Disney. Borrowing elements from the past, but bringing it into the forefront here is really awesome.
It also feels more like a well-developed fantasy film. Like, even
Yeah.
their outfits look incredible. Like, Elsa's new outfit with, like, the little triangle shoulder things, and it goes down, like... It reminds me of a Middle-earth elfin robe.
Yeah.
Like, that looks amazing. And really gives a completely different vibe to the original Frozen, which just felt very... in that time, in that place.
It felt very
Only
Disney
of that
princessy.
story. Yeah. This feels like it's trying to really break out of that mold of a Disney princess story and be something really invigorating and new.
What do you think, Michael?
I didn't say it.
Okay. Okay, Michael probably hasn't seen any of these, but we're still going to talk about them. I know something Michael did watch. So, next year, Warner Brothers are going to be doing new Looney Tunes cartoons.
Oh, yeah, they are.
And they harken back
exciting.
to the old style of animation
I
as
don't
well.
like how far they're going back, though. They're going back to the point when, like, it's so early where, like, Bugs Bunny has, like, miscolored gloves. Did you notice that?
I didn't like that. Why do you have yellow gloves?
Because it's like the older kind of 1930s era when it was... It's weird, because what they're doing is... Chuck Jones's big thing was combining animation with high art. That's why he liked to incorporate Bugs Bunny into operas or classical music, things like that. So they're taking a very core kind of Chuck Jones mentality with the short film, like we'll talk about in a second, but they're mixing it with the animation style of the time kind of before Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that
So
is weird,
I thought that was
actually.
I thought that was a little bit incongruous, a little bit odd. Like they're doing the over the top kind of like the way I differentiate the animation eras for Warner Brothers is how Daffy Duck acts. If Daffy Duck is over the top, insane, like loony, it's that kind of very early era. Daffy Duck was more of like this maniac. But as, you know, the century kind of progresses a little bit forward and after, like, the war kind of finishes, Daffy Duck's character kind of transitions into his, like, he's just jerk,
He's a
aggressive,
cynic.
jealous, cynical period. I like that era better. I think that era of Looney Tunes is much more subversive.
It also
and
has
much
its
funnier.
most biting comedy as well.
Yeah. That's what I think where the comedy genuinely holds up. When it's genuinely very, very funny. The early cartoons are funnier in a more kind of broad slapstick way. And I think it's odd that they're combining that connection to high art, those sensibilities, with the very early kind of manic era of Looney Tunes. I don't think it quite fits together.
I think it might if we give it more chance than just the one.
Again, we
clip.
just saw literally
I get
2
it.
minutes.
It's beautiful, though, and
it
it's
is
nice to
amazing.
see something that is traditionally animated again.
Just so we can explain, the video we show was just like everything was timed to dynamite exploding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was the video.
It was it's a video of
Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny
Yeah.
kind of doing this balletic chase scene when to classical music
With
where,
lots of dynamite.
where Bugs Bunny will throw dynamite to Elmo and it'll explode on the beat of a lot of during the musical number.
Either way, I thought it was really
Yeah,
fun,
it's-
and it was really well animated.
Yeah. From what I read, they're actually letting the animators control how the animation is going to be in each episode. So they're doing like a lot more character animation stuff and letting the animators really control what they want to do with the animation.
That's awesome. I like
Yeah.
that.
That's good.
Giving the animators some freedom to just have some fun.
Exactly.
No more kicking them into a dilapidated shed filled
Yeah,
with
no more
termites.
termite terrorists.
No more termite terrorists.
So Disney announced that they're going to be doing a Monsters Inc. series.
I heard about that. I didn't
That's
see the
called
trailer.
Monsters at Work. It's a
Can I
sequel to
just
Monsters Inc.
Say that that's still they released. The only one they released looks like fan art. It's so stupid. They've got
Oh, really?
They've got the still images of Mike and Sully from Monsters Inc. 1, just stuck them on the side of a door and put the new character
yeah.
in the middle.
Oh,
Like, I don't know why they would do that as a choice rather than
Actually
actually
showing-
rendering a new version of Mike and Sully.
Well,
Like, we
I'm
would-
looking forward to it nonetheless because they are getting back John Goodman and Billy Crystal to do the voices of Mike and Sully.
That's awesome.
Like, I actually like Monsters University, so I'm actually really happy that this is getting a sequel
Yeah.
series.
Monsters University is great. I love
It'd be
that.
interesting. It'd be interesting to see that animation has progressed to such an extent where the quality is probably comparable to that of the initial film.
And I'm pretty sure this is the second ever series that Pixar has done. Second only to Buzz Lightyear and Star Command, the 2D animated
And that was
show.
2D.
That's fun. That's a fun
Yeah.
series.
That was a fun series.
What else? So, for some reason, there's going to be a Fast and Furious animated series
Good on it. Next.
made by DreamWorks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be 3D, and I don't know. I'm not into Fast and Furious.
They should make like The Rock voice a car. Like they should be talking cars, but like played by the people in Fast and Furious.
Then
So
it would just be
Cars-
but
Cars
Fast
voiced
and
by
Furious.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be Vin Diesel would be like a diesel truck, obviously.
No, Vin Diesel will play Groot.
Oh, exactly.
Groot has a car.
No, the Iron Giant's tanker. Yeah. Okay. We got 2 trailers. Okay, we got a trailer for an upcoming show called Kippo and the Age of Wonder Beast, and another trailer for an upcoming show called The Owl House.
Kippo looks great. I love that
Yeah.
style. That is such a great, like, I think it's a blend between like a Western and anime inspired sort of thing because
Yeah.
it's got the sharp edges of her face and everything looks really bouncy and just sharp and energetic. That's my favorite sort of style.
And The Owl House, from what I've seen, has been compared to Star versus Forces of Evil.
I really like how I like that style in terms of it's a more fantasy thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure what they're going for this style wise.
Yeah.
Like it looks a bit it doesn't look completely ground in its style yet.
But
Like-
then again, we literally just saw a 1-minute
Yeah,
trailer,
just
not
one
even set
minute.
to music or dialogue. Oh,
But
or
this was
anything.
announced the very same time that Amphibia was first announced. They were originally going to be released simultaneously.
Oh, okay.
So the fact that this only has a minute and Amphibia is now doing like
a week.
4 episodes a week suggests maybe there's some issues they're still bumping out or something.
Yeah, but yeah, out of those 2, Kippo definitely looks a lot better. Like, it looks really
yeah.
fantastical and fun.
Kippo looks fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see something. Who does that again?
I think it's DreamWorks. I'm
That,
not 100%
that's fun.
sure.
I can't wait for that.
And 2 more things. So Disney yesterday, as of recording, they announced. Oh, Disney Pixar announced they're doing another film next year, literally 3 months after Onwards, called Soul.
So is this just how Captain America gets the Soul
Well,
Stone
it's
back to
about
Bill Maher?
it's about New York City and souls and stuff. So apart from knowing it's set in New York and is about souls, it's directed by Pete Docter, who did Inside Out and Monsters Inc.
That's pretty good.
But yeah,
It's a good
getting him to do
resume.
it, and it also looks very like the poster is very visually similar to the first Inside Out poster as well.
It's very odd. The Soul poster, it's literally just the logo. But
Yeah.
for some reason, how they draw that O reminds me of, have you ever seen the video game Journey?
Yes.
That painterly music style?
Hmm.
For some reason, it reminds me of that, and it makes me feel like this is going to have a painterly 3D style, which makes
that would
me
be awesome.
really excited.
But the thing is, they used a similar style for the Inside Out poster, the first one. So
yeah.
maybe, but if they could venture into a painterly style, that would be really great. I reckon Pixar could pull it off.
Pixar can pull off anything.
That's a beautiful logo.
And finally, just a few hours ago, they released the trailer for Trolls 2. we're not gonna enter there. But yeah, this totally didn't need a sequel. But somehow the trailer already looks better than the first one.
Look,
But that isn't a far
not-
margin.
That's
though.
not praise, no.
It looks great, but I don't like it because the story doesn't look interesting. I don't really care about the troll lore. I just don't.
It's visually it's impressive, but apart from that, it's got nothing going for it. Oh, apart from the voice talent. Okay.
Michael's got an announcement. He's got to tell us what we're
that's
doing next week.
Oh, what we're doing next week.
You
I
are-
don't really want to watch it.
What are we watching next week, Michael?
Well, let me tell you a story.
Oh, great.
So in the town where I was born, hear me out, there lived a man who sailed the sea. And he told us of his life in the land of submarines.
Oh,
So we sailed up to the sun
no.
till we
No.
found
No.
the Sea of Green.
No. No, we're not doing this.
I haven't finished the story, Stefan.
We're not doing
And
this.
we lived
We're not
beneath the waves.
We're not doing this.
in our yellow
We're not freaking
submarine.
I don't want to do it. No.
So we are doing the Yellow Submarine next
We're
week.
doing the Beatles animated film. I've already ordered it, Stefan. It cost me $9.95.
No. Please.
We're watching Yellow Submarine.
I don't want to.
So with that, we're going to be ending the podcast. So we are on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Overcast, Podcast for iOS, and probably some other ones. I'm going to apply for us to get onto a few more this week. And yeah, and all of the links are below, down in the description. So yeah, and that is the end, and Stefan is dying on the inside.
We all live in a yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. Yellow submarine.
Oh, tune in next week.